The materials you will need to create a D&D character are a calculator, paper, dice, ideas, a pencil, the player's handbook, and a printer/copier. Step number 1, come up with an idea of what you want your character to be. The basics are fighter, spellcaster, or support. For this example, we will be making a fighter. Now that we have selected what kind of character we want to make, we need the character sheet. So, in order to make the character sheet, you put your paper into the printer/copier, and then for this we will be using the copy function, and you turn to the back of the player's handbook and you print off all of the sheets associated with the character sheet. Now, there are 3 of these. Now that we have our character sheet printed out and the idea of what style of character we want, we are now going to pick a class for the character. These are the 3 sheets of the character sheet. And this is the list of classes, which you can find on page 45 of the player's handbook. Now, for this example, we will be making a barbarian. Now that you have selected your class, you need to write down the characteristics of that class. Now, this is pretty simple. You go to the barbarian section table here, and you look at the row for first level. Then you take your proficiency bonus, your rage and unarmored defense, your 2 rages, your rage damage, and you put them on your character sheet. Now, you write down your class and level here, so level 1 barbarian, your player name here, so Dalton Lieberger for me. You put your proficiency bonus here, and then you put your rages, rage damage, and unarmored defense here. And then you go back to the book and go to this section called Class Features. Now, here you have your hit dice. You get 1 hit dice per barbarian level. So, in this section, you write down that you have 1 hit dice, and that hit dice is a d12. Then you go back here, and you see your proficiencies. Now, your armor and weapon proficiencies, you will put in this column. Your saving throws and skills are a bit different. For the skills, you will choose 2 of these skills. And then you will go to the saving throws and skills columns, and you will bubble in the circle next to the ones that you have received. For this example, we have the strength and constitution, as well as the athletics and perception. Now that you have chosen your class, you know what attributes are the most important. Now that's going to be reflected in what race you choose. So, since we are choosing a barbarian, we're going to want to choose a race that has a bonus to strength and constitution. Now, the race that does that is the half-orc. Now that you have selected your race, you need to write down the characteristics that come with it. Now, we're going to start with speed. Speed goes in the speed section, right up here. Dark vision, relentless endurance, and savage attacks all go over here in the skills area. See, 60 feet of dark vision. Now, menacing gives you proficiency in the intimidation skill, which means you go back over to the skill tree and you bubble in next to intimidation. Now, you also have 2 languages as a half-orc, Common and Orc. You write those down here in your proficiencies. And then up here, you have your ability score increase. Strength increases by 2 and Constitution increases by 1. So we'll just go ahead and make a note of that next to them. Okay, now that we have the benefits of our race written down, we are going to need to roll up our attributes, which are these. And now to do that, you take 4 6-sided dice, or d6, and you roll them. and then you take the three highest numbers. Since we have two 6s and a 4, our number is 16. And you write that down on a piece of paper as such. Then you repeat the process 5 more times until you have 6 numbers. Then you repeat that process 2 more times until you have 3 sets of 6 numbers. And then you pick the set that you most like. For this example, we will be using this second set here. Now that we have our 3 sets of numbers and our selected one, we're going to take these numbers and plug them in for our attributes. Now, if you remember, as a half-orc we get a +2 to strength and a +1 to con. So we would plug in our high numbers of 16 and 16 to those spots, and then add our 2 and 1. And we would plug in the next highest number for dexterity, and then the next one for charisma, and then intelligence and wisdom. And that is just for this character. It's really personal preference where you want to put them, but for optimal character performance, you want to put strength and con as your highest numbers. Now that you have your numbers, you're going to go over to this table on page 13 in the player's handbook and convert those numbers into modifiers. And typically how this works is on every even number it increases by 1. So for an 18 we have a +4, for a 13 we have +1, and so on and so forth. Now that we have our attributes figured out, we can figure out our saving throws and skills. So for each saving throw and skill, they have a specific attribute listed. So what we do is we take the modifier and we add it, put it in the blanks. For the ones we are proficient in, we add the proficiency bonus. So for strength, we have a +4, and we are proficient in the saving throw for strength, which means we add 2 more onto that. So we have a +6 to our strength saving throws. And we only have a +1 in our dexterity modifier, and we are not proficient, so that's just a +1 to dexterity saving throws. And it's the same for down here, except rather than just reading off that it is a strength, dex, con, whatever, it says next to it what it is. And then down here we have our passive wisdom perception. Now to figure this out, we take 10 plus our perception, and that is our passive. Now that we have figured out our saving throws and skills, we can go ahead and fill in some of the remaining blanks. We're going to start off with hit points. At first level, the barbarian gets 12 plus their constitution modifier. Since our constitution modifier is a +3, we have a 15 hit point max. And that goes in this hit point maximum line. Armor class, because a barbarian has unarmored defense, is equal to 10 plus the constitution modifier plus the dexterity modifier. So we have a 14. Initiative is equal to your dexterity modifier, and since we have a +1, it's just a +1 to initiative. And then down here we have the equipment, which can be found on the barbarian section. You start with these equipment. Now you get your choice of either a great axe or any martial melee weapon. What that means is you can choose a melee weapon from the martial class if you don't want a great axe. However, we're going to go ahead and take the great axe. And then you can choose between 2 hand axes and any simple weapon. We're going to take the hand axes. And then you get an explorer's pack and 4 javelins. And this all goes here. Now, since a great axe is a melee weapon, we add our strength bonus plus our proficiency bonus because we are proficient with great axes, and we get a +6. Javelins are a ranged weapon, which means you add your dexterity bonus plus your proficiency bonus, and you get a +3. And then we place the explorer's pack down here in the items section. Now, to determine what type of damage die we roll for this, we go to the weapons section on page 149 of the player's handbook. And then we look for the weapon that we want to look up. For the great axe, we have a D12 slashing. So we put that in here, and because it's a melee weapon, we add our strength bonus to it. And because these are ranged weapons, we add our dexterity bonus. And that is how you make a D&D character.